Step with this. I'll show you exactly what to do. This is a Frankenstein Karloff Monster sculpt that I did. I'm laying on the back so he's got to bust his head. I gotta fix that shit. That's not gonna matter much because it's a all that's gonna be covered with hair. But this is silicone mask, so I gotta smooth it out, clean up a little bit, just a little piece here. Alright, now a plastic bandage, if you remember from the last one, I plastic bandage the back to support the cards. We're going to take those off. Pull that plastic bandage right off, see? Now we're just maintaining the support of the cards. Okay? We've got no leaks anywhere. I'll turn it around. Fully fiberglass in the front. I got 2-3 layers of microfiber, 2-3 layers of chopped mat right here, and then 2 layers of this cloth all over this. Alright, so he's got a good wall, you got a good form, got a good, all around. Okay? Now the back part of this, like I said, we pulled the plaster off, and you got to wipe that down. Get your towel, some water. I'll go down here and get some water. Got water right here. I already got water in this thing. Okay. So take you some water. Get all this plaster off. And I got 10 days to get this thing finished and molded and cast and painted and ready haired, the whole thing. Only got 10 days to the convention. A friend of mine's the one that's going to be wearing this contest, so it's going to be the first ever done and displayed at the convention. Okay? So it's a big deal for me. It'll be the first forehead silicone mask I've ever made. And then it will also be hopefully a contest winner for him. We'll find out. We'll see. Okay. I'll smooth this out right here. There's about a 1/4 inch all the way around. Pretty much all the way around. I'm going to have to take some sculpting tools and get in here and get some of this plaster off. And stuck to the cards a little bit. To make it flange stick up. Okay. I'll put tape down over that. That'll be fine. Because it's not inhibiting the surface. It's just on the wall. So I'll put tape down. That'll cover that. That'll be fine. You guys might ask, why didn't I use any type of polyurethane resin to make this, like the guys at CFX or Immortal or anybody. I'm just a one-man shop. So all I can do is local materials. I'm more like the Allen Hops of fiberglass molding. I use regular Bondo fiberglass, auto body fiberglass, and make a lot of molds for taxidermy, which is foam. And then I also do silicone bust, but I haven't cast too many up to have for sale yet. I just make them first. And now I'm nearing down to the last 2 or 3 that I've got to do. But I have some characters. I have a couple of more characters that I want to get done. And from that, I will be having those up for sale. But I have plenty of other stuff out there that's for sale that gets sold, that does pretty well, without having to do silicone. But I'm breaking away from latex and going to silicone, so for mask and bust and all that. So all I do is just rub this out of the skin pores, get all this plaster dust off. Try not to rip up any clay with my fingernails. Take another one and just get all that plaster dust off. And just water, because this is oil-based clay. As you know, oil and water do not mix. So there's no danger of any inhibitions or anything like that. The only thing is if there was plaster that would get caught in the resin, it would just be a, like a pour or hole detail in the resin when I take it out. But I'm not going to do that insofar as this thing. As I put too much time and detail work and everything into this that I can't afford to make any mistakes at all. So rub all the plaster off of there, get it off the flange, make sure that it's not going to do anything that's going to discolor it and make it in a, you can't have any leaks when you pour silicone, so you got to make sure that seal is good and tight. Now I've got clay right here on the corners. I had them butted and kind of putting it up for the cards. So we'll be taking little bits of clay off of here so I can have a flat flange. I'll put the clay in there. I'm going to scrub off all this right here, this plaster, get this off. That's just water. And take it off the form too. We're going to fiberglass down on the form, so you got to get it off the form as well. And what you have to do before you fiberglass the form, put fiberglass on there, you got to put Vaseline or wax on there. And I usually use Vaseline for the most part on this. Floor wax, I don't have too much left. I can get more, but I usually reserve that for my fiberglass and foam work, because that's what goes well with, against fiberglass and foam. Okay. I can get all this cleaned off. Take a little bit and just kind of pull this plaster bits out of here. Just shave that off. It's not taking the clay, it's just taking the plaster. Getting the plaster out. You have little bits of plaster to thicken up and get on there and just be chop, 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 and cut that off. Just a scalpel. Got a little piece of tape off of here. I'll be putting more tape along the boundary here just to come on, I got a scalpel right here. Come on. Shit. Okay. Take that piece of tape off. some more water. Clean this off. Clean it all off. And get a little bit of right here on the top. A little bits of blister. There you go. Got that. That's a little bit. And I can just put that clay right back there. Good. So I'm so glad this didn't happen to the front, because the front part has all the detail on it. The back does not. So I can willingly and easily dig out little bits and put them back. And I've got this clay wall I've got to take down right here, which is right up against the sculpt, but it's not on the sculpt. It's more or less over the bolt part, where the bolts are going to go in his neck. I still got to do those. So and off all this residual plaster here. Clean that out. I got more detail in the shoulders and shit. And you gotta get water and get that plaster out. And the only thing that I have is my name, company name right there, KKC, the initials engraved in here. So all I have to do is just, I could probably cover that, but I'm going to use some microfiber just to get that covered. A couple layers, do that, and then do the initial top mat over the back. And put that, but I'm going to tape right here just to make sure that it doesn't leak through. And get all that plaster off. And make sure I get it all off here. Okay. Now, make a couple of tape adjustments here. Get my painter's tape right here. A couple of small adjustments up here at the top. Right there. And put it right up against the clay, not on the clay, but right against it. And tape. Right up against your clay, but not on it. And we'll get it right there. Now right here, the back of the ear, which I have to adjust right here with the cards. I do have to peel that away just a little bit with the cards. because there's the back of the ear right here, which if I mold it, it's going to have a wrinkle on the back of the ear because of the way they've done that. So what I'm going to do is very carefully peel this away so I can see how far I need to adjust that. And cut that. Right there, that's a double card. Now double layer my cards so I can have that. I'm going to peel that back and find out how far that fiberglass did or didn't go over on it. Okay. Right there. We'll cut this card right back on the back of the ear so I can have that ear intact as a whole right there. Now this being my first mask, these little mistakes can kind of be learning curves, you know. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to readjust these cards right around the ear so I can better form it in the final product. So I know the fiberglass is out in the front of the ear, but I have to have a solid backing of the ear. I want to, like I said, cut a little bit of the double carding away, because that's the flange part that's not going to make any difference. I want to have a solid back of the ear. And I don't want any kind of discrepancies with, I'll put clay over that if I need to. Okay, but I'll play over that real quick because as part of the ear, I want to make sure that the whole ear gets molded. I'm going to put that out a little bit. Mash that right there against the form to make that ear, the back of the ear. And I got to smooth it out. As well. I know where I can cut off at, but I'm not going to. I'm just going to smooth it out and let it be an entire thing, front to back and everything. Yeah. Okay. Now, next thing you want to do, once you got that cleaned up, get you some Vaseline. Take a handful of Vaseline, put it on your form. I don't really want it on clay, but it's not going to hurt anything. This is to ensure that the fiberglass does not stick to the form, because you're going to have to mold it about 2-3 inches below the lip of the back of the mask, back of the sculpture. It's a good dose of Vaseline, put it on there, make sure it covers and coats the form well. I put it on the sides here just in case I get a little bit of leakage or whatnot. Not going to stick this form. Because when you go to demold it, you want to make sure this thing comes off without any problems. You don't crack it, you don't break it, you don't do anything like that. So I put it all the way around. What I initially found that after spec, I could have cut the shoulders a little bit thinner, closer to the form, but you know, as being a full first one, I just thought, yeah, just go full size. Go full size, not gonna hurt anything. And the Vaseline off your hands. Wipe it off the clay. It can go on the clay if it wants to. Not gonna hurt anything. So make sure that I've got all of this cleaned up. Right here. Okay. Put that out of the way, get that out of the way, get that out of the way. All the shit out of the way. Tape out of the way. Alright, now I'll do a couple of layers of microfiber right here. Tissue paper. This stuff. Microfiber, aka tissue paper, alright? Let's take a couple of squares of this. Rip it off. This is for fine details. I'm just going to put that right there. Okay, now we'll mix our fiberglass. Standard Bondo liquid fiberglass. I don't do big batches, just small batches. Because you gotta dry, and you do too much at one time, it's gonna thicken up and you're gonna waste it. That's a small batches. Mix that up. Apply a generous layer, thin layer of resin all the way over, on your flange, everywhere. That's your base coat. Like I said, this doesn't have any details, so all I'm doing is wetting it down and giving it a base to cling onto. So the fiberglass will have something to grab onto. It'll be wet. Now this ear, I went behind the ear, so the entire ear got encapsulated in the sculpt. I went behind this ear, but it's a little kind of goofy. So when you get that nice and coated, you can actually go down here and put some on the bottom. Don't want to do too much because you don't want drippy. Okay, now I'll take my microfiber over here where my initials are. KKC. Put that right on there. Now those initials stand out in the silicone. I'll do 2-3 layers of that. Get that all matted down, mushed in there. Now you can tell it's encapsulated in the leather because you don't see any air bubbles. Well, I'm not making them. Okay. Now I can start taking chop mat and putting it on there. Go around the entire thing, start in the middle. Make sure it's up against the form. And swish and wiggle it. God damn it. Foam. I hate that foam when it does that. Sorry about that. Swish and wiggle it down there and get all your fibers nice and wet. Same thing for the top. You're adding resin to the cards as well. Take another one, overlap that one. I come about so far down because it creates a built-in 5-point. Because I can put the screwdriver, the paint stick in between the paint up against the cards. I'm only going so far up, leaving about a 1/4 inch to create a 5-point. I get in there with the paint sticks and peel it apart, just push it and it pops open. A lot of artists will make their own 5-points with clay. I don't really find that necessary. Because I use playing cards and it's so big and I only want about 2 to 3 inch flange because it's going to get cut afterwards anyway. Carry off some more fiber, come right around, same thing, overlap, put it down in the middle, that's the form, mash it up, make sure those fibers disappear, you don't see any fibers standing out. The back side shouldn't take me but a couple hours to do, 4 hours at most, because you usually give about an hour to cure and dry and set before I go to the next layer. So within 4 hours, I can have the back side done. But by end of the day, it'll be finished. And then I'll demold it tomorrow, clean it out, set up my force spout, which I got to put right there, about a 1/4 inch PVC pipe. Some people like to put it in the top, some people put it in the bottom, some people put it in the back. I'm going to put it in the top back right here. Over that again. I work the flange first. I can make sure that I've got enough on there for a couple layers, and I'll do the middle part. Need to mix up some fiberglass here because it's starting to thicken up. And the goopy thick stuff, when it starts to thicken up, I put that on the flange. Because it's thicker. It needs to be thicker on the flange than it does the actual form. That way I'm not wasting any fiberglass resin. You don't need any bitty bits of damages and whatnot. Okay, mix up some more fiberglass resin. We gotta tighten this thing up, and the button on the side of the thing doesn't want to hold it. Hang on just a second, I'm gonna tighten this up. There we go. Somebody asked me, how do you measure your catalyst or your hardener? I just squirt it in there. Just make a couple of circles and squirt. I've been doing this for so long, so many years, that really don't need to do measurement. But if you're nervous about it, it's about 1% catalyst to the 10 microliters, I think is what they say. Microliters, milliliters, something like that. I don't exactly remember. I know when I was working Texas supply place years ago that I was nervous about doing it right, and he said just squirt it in there. And I kind of gauged that, because catalyst will harden up fiberglass. It doesn't, if you put too much, it'll just go quicker. Not really, not enough, unless you're doing a big project with a big amount, which I don't do. That's why I do small amounts, small batches. Around, make sure that your seam against the form doesn't have any air bubbles. Cannot have any air bubbles whatsoever. And lay that fiberglass down against the cards. Got to do a little tuck up under the ears here. The overlap again. I don't know why these bugs are in here. They don't get out of here, they're going to die. doing that, and put it on kind of thick. Smooth it out. Make sure that all your cards, your flange, your fiberglass, everything is wet. Got to be in constant state of moisture. Now I'm going to do a big piece over the top of the head. Okay? Don't get too far. And fiberglass starts setting up on me. This is just layer 1. I still got to get 2 layers on here and then 2 layers of cloth. And the brush is starting to thicken up on me too. So toss your brush, get a fresh one. I wish chip brushes were on the stock market, because man, I'd invest in them, because I spend so much money on chip brushes. I'd be a millionaire if I'd invest in them. We'll get a little bit of break here. Help me concentrate a little bit better. Now this is, like I said, this is not how the professionals do it. People say I do it like a professional, but you know, it's not how George Facadackle is, or the guys at CFX do it. They use polyurethane resins. Smooth on products and stuff, and I don't have the money invested for that. It's only $70 for fiberglass cloth and a thing of fiberglass. $60 for the gallon, $10 for the fiberglass. The sheets of fiberglass is about $10. And they're fairly large too. They're about 3-4 yards wide, maybe 4 or 5 yards long, 6 yards long. So, they're big. And I buy them in bundles. So I always have a supply in hand. And I always have something to work with. You can cut it, but I rip it. This is a sheet of mat right here. Let's tear sections off. Puts a lot of fiberglass on my hand, but that's okay. I'll put that out so far and then go up to the very edge. And like I said, tuck it right there in the seam. And then work your way out. Making sure all that fiber gets wet, stays wet, and lays against the clay. As well as against the cards. Push it into that seam first. Now I gotta mix up another batch of fiberglass here. Only doing small batches. One out only what you need. You don't waste. Now you can tell when the fiberglass is good and moist because you'll be able to see what's up under it clear. In other words, the clay, if there's any white whatsoever, that means you have a bubble. You need to get rid of that bubble. Pull that out just a little bit more. Right there. If you're having trouble with the bubbles, put fiberglass resin on it. Soaks in and makes them go away. The more resin you put on here, you don't want to slop it on there because it'll run and drip. And the runs and drip will show up in the silicone. So you're just dabbing it on there, making sure you mash it in and making sure there's no bubbles anywhere. You want as tight a seal as possible. So all those stray fibers that want to get goofy, brush them up. Put some more resin down here. Make sure the fibers go away. Mash that down in there, make sure that seam is good and solid, and just brush those fibers to the side. Get your resin in there and just mash it down. Make sure those bubbles go away. If any bubbles that you have in here, you're going to have excess silicone come out. I didn't want to waste microfiber on this because I only have a little supply of it. I have to order some more. You guys can find that on eBay. Just tissue paper fiberglass is a good search for it. And it'll come up. Tissue paper, microfiber, fiberglass. Use your brush. Just don't be afraid to push and press and do all that, because it's what this is. Press it down, make sure it's wet, and everything's nice and smooth. And brush some fibers along there, and they'll lay down. They know what to do. If you do too much at one time, these fibers will pull away, and they will start causing problems because they'll pull away and then snap them back, and then they grab the ones underneath and they start pulling those away, and it just becomes a clusterfuck all the way around. I'm going to go right here where it's left off of the head, overlap that again. Go around to the seam and mat it down. When your brush gets stiff and starts stiffening up on you, change out brushes. Get a fresh brush. You want to be able to mash this down and have pliability with your brush. Let's start working to the outside. Make sure I look at all these fibers. I got to change brushes. New brush. Be sure to take your faucet wrappers off the brush too. I've done that before. Then in such a hurry, I just dipped the brush in latex and didn't even have plastic wrap off of there, and it's like, oops, why is that not going on? That's been an early common mistake. And get too much in a hurry. You want to move fast. Don't be in so much of a hurry that you overlook things like the air bubbles. Because it's very crucial and important that your first layer be as flat to the surface as it can be. Because if you don't, any air bubbles that you have might show up in that silicone or latex. I don't know why anybody would do latex in a fiberglass mold, but there are some people that like to do resin for everything. Not me. I use resin for foam and silicone. That's it. Moving on. I don't know if I got the back of the head good enough. I'm just going to do that. Got to make up more resin. And just continue working your way across and down. Across and down. I'll do the outside first so I know that I've done it. And you overlap all your resin with fiberglass by at least a ½ inch to an inch. That way you can ensure that you have a good thick layer. Brush the resin on here so he can lay down. Thank you. Lay down. Be a good boy. Good boy. Come on, lay down. There you go. I don't know if it actually helps to talk to this yet, but I do it sometimes. Trying to keep myself calm and centered and not fucking frustrated and angry. I've gotten angry doing this before and just ripped layers of fiberglass off in frustration. They're bubbling up or acting funny and just caught me in a bad moment. And so you have to have patience and perseverance. That's one of the things this will teach you. I do things that have patience and perseverance. Work it down. Start the side up down that old Miyagi shit. Also use small batches of fiberglass. I've been doing this so long I can use a big batch and know how to manipulate it. But sometimes you get ones that, like, especially with cloth, and once you get wrinkled, and what you want to do is use small bits, not tiny bits, but small bits so you don't get wrinkles. And you got to push that in there and make sure that fucking stays. Small bit. Now see, these air bubbles want to pop up because this is a thick piece of cloth. Put more resin on there. Move it down. That's why you want a pliable brush. So you can flatten it out and smooth it down and wriggle it down and take those air bubbles right out. Strip right here, put on the back of the neck, a little bit higher on the head. Same thing, just do it all over. And go up one way, make the fibers lay down and go down with the other. Also have acetone on hand and a bucket nearby, so when you get your fingers all cotton candy and shit, you can take it off. It'll wash right off. Be sure you don't have any cuts or anything on your fingers, because if you do, that's going to sting like hell. Mush that out. Mush it out. Alright, about time to change fiberglass, do the fiberglass again. Slowly getting there with the first layer. Got some chunks in here I gotta get out. Get little chunks and we'll make sure to take them out. Okay, change brushes and change fiberglass time. Another brush, more fiberglass. Right out. I got another yarn over here. Mix it up real well. Get all your fibers to lay down flat against the form. You're a pretty boy when you're done. Hopefully. Okay. Get the back of the neck here. And we'll put a small batch right there. Overlap that. And then just wiggle, 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 wiggles. Right over here and just saturate that fiberglass. Those are switch wiggle. Called switch wiggles. So just move it like that and just wiggle it, wiggle it, wiggle it. Fabric lay down. No air bubbles. Make sure your seams are all locked up. I'll do a patch over here. Take a second. You guys are interested in seeing some of this fiberglass work and stuff. A lot of them are fast videos, but I have a YouTube channel, Carolina Kiwi Creation, on YouTube. Same as the Etsy store. And I post all my work videos up there. Sculpting, molding, casting, painting, you name it. I pretty much do it all. Resin, fiberglass, foam, latex, silicone. I'll show you how to mold, cast. Some of them aren't instructional, but you know, I do tutorials like they do at Stan Linton, then you know, I'd have to make money doing it. Now here I'm taking the bottom part and I'm dropping it down below the form, because you want the cup underneath the edges of the clay. You want the cup. Tuck it underneath the edges of the clay. That way your silicone doesn't run out. Not only am I going to change dishes, I'm going to get another fiberglass brushes, dishes, everything gets changed this around. New dish, new brush, new rest resin. Cotton candy fingers, and I just roll that shit up and drop it. And it gets cleaned up later with the shop vac. Now notice I'm pushing it down and I'm pushing against the clay to make sure that resin stays moist and everything. Now here we come to the bottom of the sculpt. You want to tuck that fiberglass up under there tight. And tighten that up. So I'll lean this forward so I can get this good tight seal here. On the bottom edge. Now there's going to be about 3 layers on that bottom and tuck, so I can have ensure that I've got a good tuck seal. That's where the fibers get funny with you. You don't want to play nice. And try not to get any bubbles, but if you have a tiny bit of bubbles at the back, don't worry about it. There's going to be some silicone to trim off. I usually like to do the edge down first. Mash and smash, mash and smash. Could be doing larger batches of resin for this, but I'm using small batches so I don't fuck it up, waste it. Shit is not inexpensive, cheaper than the smooth-on stuff, but you might be able to get it done faster with polyurethane resin, but faster's not always better. I like to do this, take my time, make sure I get it done right. Now you see why we release this with Vaseline. So this fiberglass doesn't stick to it. And then mash it down. Make sure there's no bubbles. It's probably going to get trimmed off a little bit down at the bottom, but I'll do that after. I'm going to make sure the shoulder got molded. I know I did do it. Put your straight edge on the outside. Whenever in doubt, lay down more. That's all you gotta do. Make sure you get it all covered. If you're ever in doubt that you lay down some in a certain area, just put down more. You can never have too much. Better to have too much and not enough. We'll do that again. Making sure I have enough on here. You don't want to walk away, forget where you were at, and then come back and not have a weak spot in the fiberglass. Thing is, silicone is not that heavy and dense a material that it's going to be like foam where you really want layers and layers and layers and layers. Because fiberglass is dense enough that it'll hold silicone pretty much for just 2 or 3 layers. But I'm conditioned to doing multiple layers, so my brain says put more on, even though I don't need it, just to be safe. Chuck over here in the corner. I didn't go all the way out on the shoulder, but I did go out some. I'll probably end up cutting a little bit off. Now I'm going to make this chuck fit right around the form, right on there. So when I put it on there, it will not do anything to leak any silicone out whatsoever. I'll put more resin on there just to make sure it thickens it up. Make sure your corners are nice and tucked around. Gotta have a good chuck line underneath. Go back and double check, triple check, make sure everything's tucked in. Right here, it doesn't want to do it, so I'm going to have to put more resin on there. Get this fibers to tuck down and lay down. And just put more fiberglass on top. I may have a little leak right there. Take a little bit of cloth. I'm going to fix that real quick. I'm going to put a cloth barrier right there. Hopefully that'll fold up right there, and that'll fold up and strengthen it up to where it won't don't leak. Cloth is usually used for reinforcement of the outside layer. Brush change time. But I want to make sure that this air bubble here does not leak. I'm putting brush change. Fiberglass. That out. If it allows me to, just the last little bit, and I got left to do with this with. That's enough done. Yep. Sorry, hardening up. So there may be a little bit of a leak right there with excess silicone, but I can trim it. Not going to be that bad. Alright, I'll take a break. Come back out later, a couple hours, and do it all over again. And that's how you do it, boys and girls. That's how it's done. I'm going to take this residual fiberglass, put it on here, thicken it up. So I don't waste it. Harbor Freight, good place to get some brushes. These are cheap brushes. They're only $10. You can get 36 brushes to a $10 pack. I usually buy about 4 or 5 packs. So I always have brushes on hand. There we go. And that's how you do it, boys and girls. And it's that easy. Get your little bucket of acetone. Not to pour it, more acetone here. I'm going to do this away from the camera. So if you get acetone too close to the fiberglass, the fumes will get in there. And the fumes will cause it to laminate. So when you do a bucket of acetone like this, to clean up in, do it well away from the fiberglass. Just wash my hands in acetone. Take that cotton candy and the resin right off the fingers. And bang. All done. There we go, boys and girls. That's it. We shall see you on the next one. Appreciate it.